Yeah, well, okay, Ricky. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here today to record our thoughts. And but I was always interested to the reason why and how you became a farmer.
Oh,
It's a nice story, but it's in your words.
yeah, well, our community is surrounded by farmers and did a lot of hay baling and did a lot of work, played a lot of rugby and sports, and so met the farmers. So yeah, a couple of relations worked on farms and went to a farming school. So it was always kind of there, but wasn't really um, didn't see that I was going to be a farmer at all.
There was circumstance, in other words.
Well, it was
That
just the background in school and friends, and it's hard not to meet farmers in this country, especially when you live in the country.
yes,
So that was the background, and so our family invested in a dairy unit, which was using our land. So rather than being paid dividends, we invested what would have been our land rent into the dairy unit, which went through a tough time in 2013 thereabout. I think it went down to a little less than $2.50 milk solid, and I think now it's at $10.30.
yeah, yeah.
So we lost probably 1.5 million thereabouts in investment. But the land wasn't ever used as collateral, it was just land rent. So after that, we leased it out, and the farmer who was leasing it wasn't making any infrastructure changes that safeguarded the community. And as a result of that, cows were going into our nan's backyards and eating their cabbage. So I had to do something about that. So Dad actually asked me to come back on the land. So the land has been in our family for generations, and our great-great-grandfather was a farmer. So that's the short and narrow of how I ended back up on the land.
There was an incident, though, that was critical in you being back here in this modern time. It's very interesting. Are you prepared to enlarge on that?
So we had originally looked at the dairy, but the dry stock seemed to have a bit more appeal, and I'd met some friends through rugby in the United States who knew farmers here, who told me to contact you. You weren't on any Facebook or anything like that. And so that was very, what could you say? That was very unscripted, because the place where you were raised and born was the place of the former MP Korowetiri, who I knew very well. And so what was unique about that was he told, those who were close to him, that he used to look after Colin Mead's farm when he was an All Black, and then when Korowetiri became the Māori MP for Western region, that favour was returned. So from my friends in the United States who own some bigger farms than any farmer in this country. Very big, like huge. 100,000 just in the yard.
Mm.
So, and I met them through rugby.
Yes, yeah.
And so through them, connecting to farmers here, then he said, "Oh, you ring this guy," and so they gave me your number, and then I called you, and lo and behold, you turned up. and that's another story, because hadn't met you, as we began to share our background and history, I then kind of opened my eyes and was thinking, gee, this is kind of weird, because this guy is from where my mother is from,
Yeah.
and the people that he knows are the people that I know.
From my village.
Yeah, so it was kind of unscripted.
It was, Ricky. But the other point, the fact is you have had a career before farming, which is modern for you,
Yeah.
and that was in the transport industry.
Yeah. Well, my mum's family are all truck drivers, so I always like to do things that I enjoy. And like yourself, you enjoy farming, and I enjoy farming. I enjoy the building relationships with the animals, particularly if they're seeding animals, and that's your expertise. That's something that you have that I haven't seen and yet to see. That particular skill set and experience that you bring to farming, I think is long overdue for our country.
Yeah. The other fascinating thing about you, Ricky, is you retook your lands because of a malpractice in a sense, and it was the deciding factor that you made. And I just loved the line that you always told me, that you, by career, was a truck driver and a very good rugby coach mentor of people. And because of this incident, you suddenly ended up with a farm. And you told me, you said, well, I've got this land here, but I'm not, I'm not a career farmer. What do I do? And
yeah. Yeah, yeah, truck driving, you mean stock truck drivers and stock feed truck drivers, and so it's all interrelated, and but like I said, our land was in disarray, gorse, there were no ponds, there was no ducks, there was no bird life, there was nothing, just a lot of gorse and fences that stock just regularly went into the community. And so in a period of 2 years, I had received 14 phone calls, sometimes at 2 a.m. in the morning. My family ringing, hey, Auntie Betty rang, and she said there's stock in the back eating her vegetables. and her muck was yelling, there's a big giant in the back of at the back of the house. So
you had to do something about it.
So there was the first of many issues that we had, and so I decided to, through my father, asked me to come back and take care of the land, and now we have 2 ponds with ducks in it, and those ducks started from 2, now there's something like 29 now, and the birds are coming back, so all of those things, which is all part of what you and the other farmers that I've met, who are like-minded about regenerative farming, and who all have a lot of respect for you, Ian. So I'm grateful and thankful that you came to help me and our family.
No, it's a pleasure because I'd just like to add, Ricky, that you're phenomenal, really, because you farm this property, a beef property with, when you're stocked up, what, how many
Oh,
cattle?
300, yeah.
300 cattle?
Yeah.
You farm it without a working dog, and you use psychology, the good side of psychology with your animals. You connect with your animals and with nature.
Yeah.
And that's so fascinating because you care for your animals. You can be really proud. I know we've started building a herd here, but already with selection and your management and your connection with them is quite a profound herd.
Yeah, the good thing is my family have given me feedback as to, you know, the conditions of those seeding stock which you selected. And this year, those cows from 2 years ago calved down, and members of my family who are in the industry have made comment about you know, the condition and state of the farm, as well as the stock. Both the cattle, and recently we added the Kirkdale sheep genetics, which is a whole another story. But yeah, it's really just about animals. In a lot of ways, are like people. You have to earn their trust, and there are a lot of farmers too who are able to manage their herds without an aggressive or without electrical rods. And so that's important because it's rhetorical. You know, what you reap, you shall sow. And so if the animals, you build that relationship, if the animals understand you, you can do a lot of things. You know, some of the local farmers can't understand why we have sheep with only 2 wires.
Yeah, exactly, 2 wire sheep fence. Very economical.
So a couple of farmers have visited the farm, and they're just looking, and they're saying, "Well, where's the herding dogs? Where's the border collie?" And so I don't have a border collie. Where's your worker? I don't have a worker. Why don't you have a worker? I says, well, I don't need one because I work with the sheep. I don't, you know, manipulate them. They're not there for me to punch into the way that I want things done. It's about just working with them, and
What they need to do to be the best
yeah,
producers
well,
possible.
Yeah, well, it's not a you know, it's not a scientific equation. It's just real simple, you know, and it's just coming down to their level and understanding their wants and needs, and managing that with nature. This year's been a particularly dry summer, but as you would have seen, those girls haven't lost any weight at all.
Absolutely, they're very content and efficient.
They're in good condition, and that was through your genetic selection, which is really the key to me being able to do my herdmanship. And so if we have the attitude of not caring for the animals, then I believe that attitude is given back.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I can, you know, because some of my family are dry stock farmers too, and I watch how they do it, and they have 6 or 8 dogs, and they got the cows jumping all over the place, and I'm like, man, I wouldn't like to be a cow because I wouldn't like those dogs, you know, barking at me, and if I don't like the dogs barking at me,
yes,
then I'm assuming that the cows don't like being barked at too. It's just an assumption, and the same with the sheep.
Yeah.
So when I move them, I don't actually get behind them. I do if I have to get them in a hurry, but I just kind of let them know I'm here, and they'll just come on their own accord. And that's a very different way of farming. So it's all of that. It's the nature calling. It's the when you came, you brought something I had never seen ever, and I've met some of the very best in the world, some of the very best.
Yes.
And you brought something that I never saw them ever have. Well, I haven't seen. I think they may have alluded to it, or think, but I hadn't seen them kind of bring it in a way that you did, and I never saw it ever.
You're moving into a field that we've both got a connection with, and it's special. It's spirituality. And it's more than 3 dimension. You mentioned dimension before. 3 dimension is length, breadth and depth, and everyone understands that.
Yeah.
But I select animals on 5 dimension.
Yeah.
And that's coming now into the very point you're starting to make about spirituality.
Yeah.
And it takes us into temperament and behaviour.
Yeah.
And it's a very fine line, but it's a matter of being understood. And you've got the ability, because your beliefs and background and heritage, you understand it, and I certainly do as well. And so you've just explained it. You've got a special connection with your animals, and they're relaxed, they're efficient, and we select for the efficient type animal. It has a dimension, it's measurable, and if you measure anything, that's a fact.
Right.
It's not a theory, it's a fact.
Yeah.
And if you want to call it a conspiracy fact, well, you can call it that, because that's what it is. And the more astute we become at fine-tuned measurement, we end up in a special place of respect with our animals, and then high productivity.
Yeah, well, it was something that I hadn't seen, but was aware of because of the community that I was raised in, and the background, because Ratana was a faith healer.
Yes.
So in 1918, the pre-colonisation was 140,000 Māori. By 1918, it was less than 40,000 because of the epidemic influenza.
Yeah.
So this guy, through an evangelistic ministry, was healing people. Healing.
He was
Like,
a prophet.
Yeah. Well, you have to be able to make people see or hear, or they were deceased. And so they then became alive. So that dimension is not a dimension that's recognisable in the business world. So when you came, I was just floored because you were white. I'll be honest.
I can darken up on a hot day.
And I thought, here's a white guy who understands spirituality. This is profound. This is something. And not only that, it was your ability to see things that we don't see carnally, and that was not understanding the genetics, but understanding how that animal behaves, which is the spirit within that animal. And that's what you saw in that. That just freaked me out. I was like, whoa. And like I said, I've met some of the biggest farmers on this planet. I've met them. And they didn't have what you had. So I was kind of just taken back by that. And thankful.
No, it's a pleasure.
And grateful and respectful. And I know that every farmer that works with you has a loyalty not written on paper. And for me, that's who I am. That's who our people were and are, some of them, not all of them.
No, to me, that's the most powerful contract. It is unwritten. It's a belief, a trust, a respect for each other.
Oh, I saw it when we had the farmers meeting by Sean's up in Whakatane there. I saw it because none of them are going to do anything unless they have your blessings, and that's not written on paper. But you see, because of where you come from, you reach the essence of what farming should, in my view, be about. And it's not even about the colour of our skin,
No.
because it's really about the heart of the man, understanding animals, land, and the creator of all of these things, including ourselves, because we all have a begin and an end date. And so what you brought to the table when we went in the yard, when you stood there and then you just waited patiently, and the whole herd just came, and I hadn't seen that, and I was like, wow, this guy's different. And then we went in the yard, and then he went, watch. I thought, oh, just nature. And then he tested me. He says, you pick him. And I went, oh yeah, tick, tick, tick. And he went, yeah, that's right. So you had to watch nature, and then you pick the not good ones, and the not good ones were messed around with, basically. And so that's why I'm excited. It's hard work, you know. There's no way around it, but it's exciting because you're bringing something that I haven't seen, something that our country really needs it. I think so.
And our industry certainly does.
Well, you know, we're facing challenges that are no different to in the UK, in America in particularly, whereby, you know, it's been manipulated by corporations and sold and through mainstream companies that control how it's marketed and control the price. So it's really been taken away from the men, women, children and families that do that hard work on the front line.
Because business in our industry, to run a good business or industry, or even family, it's not about dictate. It's about understanding the stuff that we've discussed and created a freedom for each individual member, because we're all different. It's not about being the same. It's about respecting the difference. And then those cogs of that wheel fit together and work at a very high level of trust and empathy. And it's no different, as we've explained already, about connecting with animals. It's the same principle. So we now, our extended client base, and you are a very good example, you're a strong individual, you enjoy your freedom, you also are a mentor, and I don't like using the word coach, but it's a commonly used word. To me, the special one is being a mentor. If it's rugby, any sport, business, agriculture, working with animals, it's the same principle. And so that's where the trust side comes into it, and letting each individual express themselves to be the best they can be. And that's all we can offer ourselves or our family or our community or our nation, to be the best that we can be. And some are always better than others. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Because somewhere you need inspiration, and we all admire. I'm lucky I came from a village with some very powerful names. In an age group, the same age group as my children.
Yeah.
Like Jenny May Coffin, she played sevens and the 15 game rugby. Rob Waddell.
Yeah.
So come from our own village, people like Jenny May and Rob Waddell, Robert Waddell, and the girl Jefferies, she was a hockey player, a national hockey player. She played 135 games for New Zealand. I mean, and all our famous shooters in our little district as well.
Yeah.
They influenced turning cheering into a sport, and now it's international. And Sir David Fagan grew up on a farm adjacent to me. I remember when he was born. I can tell you lots of good stories, anecdotal stuff that you'll laugh all day. And they were a progressive family. They were enterprising. They went out in the cold to be the best they could be, the best for themselves. But some of those kids were the best in the world.
Yeah.
And am I proud of that? So what a leader. And so it's, as a force, the Falkirk client base, we are showing leadership because we've got this powerful individuality that we all respect. It's like being in the
we've got a good leader, Ian.
top team in New Zealand, but I'm only part of a team. You've got to have a head and a tail and legs.
It's only good as your head.
Are you going to put that on a spike?
No.
Yes, but so I think that's an essence of how we can rebuild this nation. That most people just slow down, and the advice I give a lot of my people, and Sean will talk about that as well. We were in a culture where we're so busy doing so many things that we weren't watching the main game, and that was really structured deviously.
Yeah.
So the money was flowing off the farm in a very high cost debt spiral, and that's not a wonderful place to be. Because I was there in the 1980s, 90s, and it's a very dangerous place to be.
Yeah.
You can be manipulated, and that's what's been happening with big pharma and big corporate. So we come back to slowing down, and the powers of observation is the number one, and you're very good at that. That's where we connect with our animals and watch their behaviours and their movements, their functionality, and the differences between them.
Yeah.
And that's the point on animal selection. And I've extrapolated that back to genetic capabilities or not.
Yeah.
Because my teacher is the greatest university on this earth, and it encompasses the whole earth, and it's what happens naturally in nature. And it identifies those that are not so capable, and they become part of the food chain. I'm talking outside of farming, I'm talking in nature with wild animals. So I studied that and bring that back humbly to a practice that just settles us down, and that we start understanding so much. And that's a powerful force. When you're an individual and you can understand how things work or not, because then you can make a decision.
Yeah.
And you recognise very early if it's not going to work. And it's not a fault to go down that path to find out and say, no, I'll stop that. That's now you're cutting a high cost. And you're quickly onto the right path. But it's no different than another great New Zealander, Blake, a sailor.
Right. Yeah.
In his first time around the globe, in a simple little yacht.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about an analogy here. He only did that because he kept his hand on the tiller.
Right.
And you know what happens to a yacht if you let your hand go off the tiller? It can go round and round in circles and do strange stuff, but you'll never reach your destination.
That's right, that's right.
So our group, through understanding, we've got our hands firmly on the tiller, not with a clench, with a loving, controlled manner, and we control our own destinies. And with our animals and meeting great people, it's like how I met Joe as well. The fact that we now, one stumbling block was communicating out there, and we have an agricultural media that is very much controlled and paid for, bought and paid for. And now through Joe, we have our own media, and we got an instant reaction, which we've just experienced this last week or two. And so there's the power of having freedom. It doesn't matter if it's agriculture or any business or media. And Joe's very good at what he does and has empathy. So finally we have a tool and we got an instant rise. And I've never felt so satisfied in my life as the last 12 months, and that's part of that. But the wheel is changing now to individual power, but the individual must recognise his capabilities to take that up. Because Falkirk is a system that works. We've ironed out as many wrinkles as we can, so it's smooth, but it's up to the individual to grasp that tiller, their own tiller of their own yacht, in amongst a group that's sailing for see what's over the horizon. And may we never reach, I'm talking the horizon is our goals in life. And I never have a set goal. It's always a mystical thing that you lift the bar as you get close to it. You lift it a little bit higher so you achieve.
Yeah.
And as long as we're breathing, we will never reach that totally and put a hand around it and say, oh, at last, I've arrived.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when that happens, what do? You rest and
Yeah.
say, I've achieved my goal in life. And then when you reach a plateau in anything, there's always a danger that you'll languish on this plateau, but of course then there's another danger that you'll revert. And that's what I would leave as an inspiration, is that, so let's keep achieving as a team, and even the fine-tune and the mystical part is a driving factor. We talk about it a lot and have done. And it's that vision that I had, and it's only through curiosity that I worked it out. I just broke things down. How does this work? How does this work? As best as I could understand it. And considering I was blessed that I made a decision to leave structured education early in my life, before I was 15, but I was already taking in nature. I was living with it. I had no brothers. I had 3 sisters, and all around me it was feminine, which I loved to bits, but I was on my own, so it activated my thought process. And I was so inquisitive, whatever it was, from frogs to eels to how the seasons even. And so, yeah, that has not stopped to this day. There's the fine tune, and as you say, the stuff that you can't see. We can visualise and imagine, but the best thing is I dissected a lot of animals for consumption, and that took me into that world of the stuff that you said of what we can't see, because there it was laid out on the table, the muscular form, the bone-fat meat ratio, which I've worked out more recently, but I saw differences way back in the early days, and then I started measuring those differences. So I'm a measurer, and thanks to ultrasound, I can don't have to dissect any longer. I can use on a live animal and work out those differences. So yeah, I'm evolving as well, even at my years. I'm still excited enough. I've just ultrasounded a group of animals, and you don't know what you're going to find, but I'm finding some differences that are, or would I say an accumulation of differences that are now at a very high level, that are very exciting. And I've learnt to read that through looking at the exterior of a live animal, because every trait, it gives an expression. And so I've interpreted that, but no one else has, because it's not in the books.
Yeah, that's right.
And I have been asked to write a book. I must write this down, because people say, what about succession, Ian? Because
yes. That has been a concern for a lot of us, and I've voiced that to you. But I think you're doing a good job, and I think Falkirk will gain its own momentum.
Yeah, and I must, that was quite a pestering thing. My clients say, Ian, what are you doing about succession? Until one day, I was very tolerant, and it was part of a process. And then I looked at one or two of them one day, and I've continued as a practice now when that question comes up, but it doesn't come up very much now, because I gave this answer. I looked into Ricky's eyes and Sean's eyes and said, what about succession? I said, I'm actually looking at it. And the atmosphere went very quiet as the thought process went through in your mind. And now you're a sponge. See, it's not what we're taught in life.
Yeah, that's right.
It's what we learned.
Yeah.
What I've learned. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
Being a free spirit, and if you interface with nature, and it's what you learn. That's the most powerful thing. And because there's individual interpretation as well, and it may be slightly different, but that's fine.
Yeah.
That empowers you.
Yeah.
And so I've run my life. I know it's been difficult at times, because there have been great forces against Falkirk and myself. But I think the wheel has turned now to the point. There's a realisation with a lot of young farmers, and we're going into a group shortly that are starting to realise that there is a better way.
Yeah.
And that better way is to understand the genetic power that we were given as humans or as animals, and to work out the differences. So it's in harmony with nature as well. It's not artificial application of fertilisers or animal health remedies. You've got animals with a strong immune system and longevity. Those two things, you've got animals that can live a long time because they can. They've got the capabilities to do that, and they've got the high productivity. Wow. So with a minimum of intrusion artificially, that product that we consume as humans is the most powerful medicine.
Yeah.
The protein is the most powerful, all the nutrients in red meat. It's the most powerful per gram. It's loaded with the most power of nutrients you'll find in any food source. So it comes from that optimal animal. I've just covered it. It doesn't need assistance, because in nature, you see, if you're deficit and you have an injury, or genetically you just didn't quite click, and you're not as efficient, so you think you need more food, but no, that's a cop-out for the fact you need more nutrients, so you think you need to eat more to get it, but if your body hasn't got the mechanism to convert, you will fail. And in the wild, you're on the fringe of the herd, and you got a limpy leg as well, you're part of the food chain. I'll be honest, because I learnt that in Africa. I studied wild animals, and it's unforgiving. And we have to understand that. It's just part. You know what drives that? It's the power to save the species from extinction. And we humans are no different, except we've been manipulated and pushed into town boundaries and socialised to the point we're not thinking and acting and rejuvenating our bodies to be strong and survive. That's what this is all about. So we apply that on our animal population and leave them alone.
Yeah.
Humans are so intrusive because of that other psychology. You must add this and this remedy and the other remedy.
Yeah.
Not at all. You have faith and trust and let them express themselves. And we're the good shepherds. And it's not easy at times, but you have to make a decision to say this group are going to survive, to protect their species and us as well, because without that protein, we could face extinction as well. So it all comes back to that very point. I just joined all the dots up, being so inquisitive. And I think the point is, the modern life is like a big clutter, and if we put it on this tabletop here, there are so many parts to it. It's a huge clutter, and people can't manage that. So a colleague and I worked this strategy out in the early 2000s on the wool industry. We put the wool industry model up, so it's no different than the life model, and we looked at it, analysed it, and said that part there is unnecessary, it's been created as a negative, flicked all that on the floor and left it up with the bones of the good parts. And then we filled in the gaps with parts that would work and pulled it all together, just like an animal in the wild. And of course, that model sustains itself in business, and particularly agriculture. So that's the motivation behind my brand, myself, and now my client base. And I tell you what, it takes us away from that high cost spiral down to wealth creation. Low farm inputs. We've got higher value animals. It's all about economics. It's genetics and economics. That's what my brand is about. Simply two things. There's some other good human factors about empathy and spirituality and all those built around it. But in a business sense, that's it. We've got your shares on one side and we've got economic factor on the other. And so we simplify it. You see, we get all that clutter away. And suddenly we've got this model here that's streamlined. Wow. And like Blake, we can hang on to the tiller and go right around the world. And blow me down, I almost did. Australia, South Africa, the three countries taught me so much. There's another part of my university. And it's taken you with international connections, and Sean with his genetics, Scotland, America. Goodness gracious. Every part of New Zealand. I mean, it's inspirational, and people also say to me, what about retirement, Ian? What are you going to do with your retirement? And I say, I'm in it. Because I love what I do.
It's true.
And it's the best medicine. It's a passion. It's the best thing you can achieve. And even though Pat and I had a big challenge in July with that accident, it was also a point where we took stock that adds to what we're talking about today, and realised that life is very precious, and we're not to waste a moment of it. And I'm not saying be busy, but philosophically is to continue on. There's no retirement. You change job description on the way through and enjoy what you do, and that passion, no, there's no thought. In fact, I've given instruction to my family. If they find me one day on the farm in Myrtle Road, Pupu, up on the hillside doing what I love, that even if it's 5 days after I may have passed, I said, promise me one thing. Please celebrate my life with the people that I love in it. Yeah. So, yeah. So we'll talk about that tomorrow as a milestone, but it's not over yet.
No.
Roger.
Not by a long way, anyway.
I can say, and I'm going to say it tomorrow, but I wasn't privy for this. I'll say, well, it's been a long journey with its challenges, but I've come to a very big decision. I've travelled a long way at my 80th, but I said, now I've got some news for you. I'm going to make a statement. We're not giving up and we're not finished.
Yeah.
We're going to complete what we've set in motion. And that's a promise to everyone, and particularly the people who thought they had another agenda, for whatever means. That's their choice.
Yeah.
I believe it's not the right one,
Yeah.
and we've got the evidence for that. And so we have a duty, and it's part of leadership. People think leadership is about control and dictate and standing up on the altar and the highest hill, and it's not. It's being with the troops. I've got a passion about one of my probably ancestors who died with true leadership. His name was Braveheart, Scottish, who were suppressed. And he had a successful career until they captured him and quartered him. And you know what his last words were? His last word, which he repeated a couple of times: freedom, freedom. It was a long time ago, but his message is very clear. So I have ancestry there as well.
Strong.
Scottish,
Yeah.
and lots of others. I'm a composite, like us all. But I'm proud of all my ancestry as well. And part of that, as you know, I'll say that I'm very proud of, because this nation is profound in its beef breeding, but not so much for consumption, although they do consume a lot of red meat.
Yeah.
But they also love fighting bulls, and that's Spanish. I've won 16 Spanish blood in me. And so I love that heritage too, because it's romantic. And so it's about building a brand, not only yours, Sean's, Ben's and various others. It's about combining those brands under the Falkirk philosophy as well. So I built my own personal brand, and a brand for us to operate under an umbrella that has meaning and purpose. And we take responsibility for it as well. That's the other thing. People give their responsibility away and trust other people, and that has been abused. And that's also part of our delivery, is to counter that point, to empower people, agricultural people, because sheep and beef farmers, you know, I've been one all my life, so I'm a bit biased. I'm a bit biased here.
You think so?
Yes. we
You think
we
you're
work
a little
on
biased, eh?
we work on our own in isolated locations, and we have respect and rapport for our neighbours, but everyone respects their individuality. It's how we're made. And we give our trust to people to lead us. We have in the past. And some of our own people who then put on a suit and go to Wellington, and we trust them to look after our interest, and that trust has been abused. So under the Falkirk brand, we've taken that back and given our Falkirk members a clear vision that they can manage their own business and be profitable. So that wealth creation, I'll never tell you how to spend your money. I'll tell you how to create it though, and I'm dogmatic about that.
Yep.
So what I like, Trump recently was accused of being a dictator. And he said, only for one day. And he lived up to that. He put everything into gear. He said, only for one day. So that's only a small moment in your 80 years. So it pays to have a very good sense of humour around all this serious stuff as well. Because serious people tend to miss the main game, as you know, and a good sports person has got the visionary thing. You see, watching, as you know, I was a fly half inside, and always strategizing the game.
Yeah.
And you always had big guys coming at you, and you had to strategize them over there, not when they're on you, because it's too late. It's like the lion in the field. If you leave it till the last moment, they got you by the throat.
Yeah.
But when you see it coming, you can strategize, and it's interesting. See, we're both sports people, and we learned so much when we were younger to strategize there and stuff we enjoy. But do you know, we were just preparing ourselves for later in life. And you must have something to nurture and to hang on to when you're young and develop and grow. And that's crucial. That's why all our young people, they want to all be an All Black or the top hockey player or the best sailor or the best shearer. Well, that's brilliant. And we've all got our levels. We must aspire because we're in control. When we aspire, you're in control of your own destiny. So that's my belief here for sure. And it's humbling to me that now my powerful client base is the same age as my children. The 45 to 55 age group. Because you guys, those people are the future of our whole industry.
Yeah.
They've been misdirected a lot up till this point, but this group now are all capable leaders. They're proving it right now. They've all got other stuff on than running the core farm. They've got various projects on, and that's exciting because that means they've slowed down, they've reconciled their main plans, and suddenly they can attach this other stuff and grow their businesses. And hang on, they've slowed down to do that. It wasn't keeping busy.
That's right.
You rushing around on a rugby field, you get nailed. You're doing too much, you're not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
And that big guy is right there, he'll take you down. So, powers of observation. Now we come back to science because every one of our clients' farms is probably the best science work that's been done in this country right now. And I'll take in all the science research work because I know our science was compromised in 85 through funding. I won't go into that right now, but the point is, through very good business thinking farmers, and we measure, science is about, first of all, the powers of observation, then measurement, then notation. You've got a plan, write it down, the facts, conspiracy facts. We'll write them down and we'll conspire to be the best we can be. And then application. It's not this other fancy, fluffy stuff at all. Peer reviewing. You get people who think the same peer review, or people who don't even know the workings of your science trial, giving their opinion to say it's okay. I could never understand that. But I do understand it because then they're all thinking like and they're on the same track. You've got to look after their funding. We look after our funding too because we're creating our wealth. And we're responsible for that. And so I can't, that's what science is, eh? It's not all this complex stuff. It's as simple as that. And we measure. A man must measure. Bonsma, who created a cattle breed in South Africa, which is now by number the largest out of 17 million beef cattle. Bonsma created this breed, and he says a man must measure. And I'll take that one-liner, and he's absolutely correct because you can do the other things. You can notate it, you can work it out, and you can apply it. That's after observing what you need to do. To me, that's fundamental science. And it's interrelated with economics. So there's the business plan. We've simplified it down. As I said, we'll create the wealth. You know how to spend your wealth, Ricky, at the end of the day. Most people, advisors and consultants out there, and the whole structural financial system tell you how to spend your money.
Yeah.
They've got great schemes surrounding that.
Yep.
A lot of periphery stuff, but you farmers don't understand that. You trust us. We are the power of authority. We are the ministry of truth. I won't go any deeper into that, but that's exactly, I can't bear it any further than that. And so here we are, sitting around the table here now, discussing the future, our individual futures and of our peers and those who have empathy. And the other point I'd like to make is every one of you have chosen to be involved with Falkirk and our business plan and our spiritual plan. And if we choose to do anything, the human being who's well balanced will do the very best that we can be if it's by our individual choice and not by dictate. And that's a point of difference. So people choose to join Falkirk.
Yep.
And the values that we hold, which are very high,
Yep.
and that's not a fault to have high values and empathy and integrity, because people will choose to join or not. But that's their choice. Simply that. Then we have survivability and freedom of thought and a very powerful environment that there's no end, in my view. So it's been a pleasure working with you, Ricky, because it's not about race, it's about belief.
Yeah.
I've told you my story of your family connection as Ray Ma'ata was a coffin. His mother was a coffin.
Phil Coffin, yeah.
See, I didn't talk about Phil Coffin was an All Black from Pupu.
Yep.
Yeah. Jimmy Taitoko, way back. He's a very good Maori All Black, very good rugby player from Pupu.
Yeah.
Howard Paiaka. When I went up to seniors, he was a mentor of a lot of young guys. Howard was a Maori All Black, should have been an All Black, but he was an enforcer. But what a mentor. He just defended us in the Pupu team against some big adversaries, eh?
Yep.
When he used to hobble around the rugby field. But if he needed to, he got his speed in mid-air. He's the best dive tackler I could ever seen in my life. Even when he was old, he'd launch himself from here and hit a guy where that bench is. And one of them has a famous name. You leave my boys alone! He used to talk like, leave my boys alone! This guy didn't, so he lined him up. He hit him right here and went right through him. And we had a great game after that. So I've had a lot of people, and I just suddenly thought of Howard then. What an incredible guy. A powerful specimen. Oh, man. Wow. And so he, a little bit rubbed off there, and I must give him credit now because I hadn't thought of Howard for a long, long time. But you see, he did something to me as well. So we can learn from each other and grow. That's what we must stop doing. You know what happens to a tree when it stops growing?
Dies.
You got it in one. It'll wither.
It'll die.
First of all, it withers,
Yeah.
and then will die. That's not a good option. I think the worst part is not dying. It's actually withering.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
We've talked today about we've seen people in society withering. It's not a pretty sight, but it's their choice.
Yeah.
We were all given breath and opportunity in our differing family circumstances. We take responsibility from out of all that. We grow, we keep growing, you see, and we don't wither. And that's all about choice. And so nature taught me that very point. You see, I come back to that at my university because I saw that in real life in Africa. And I studied at Pride of Lions, so I saw it as the king of the beasts, how they function. They've got better values than a lot of families, modern families have got. Discipline, respect, integrity. The discipline part is huge. And how they administer it, and if you're not going to subscribe, the answer's quite fatal. They get rid of a problem, because all that is a drive to save their species from extinction.
Yeah. That's right.
So we apply it to ourselves and our work with our animals in conjunction. And yeah, it's a word I like. We can all use it about being successful, but with respect, with a humility. Because success without humility is a dangerous thing. We've seen people fall off the edge of the cliff because of that. But those two things combined, that's the growth. I think that's the manure that continues that growth, and it's a healthy growth, not the withering type that will die eventually. Create a lot of havoc on the way through. So we bet our souls here on the basis of Falkirk. And I think the ingredients of life, just hear the elements there now. If we stop and concentrate for a moment, the force of wind, from a breeze to a cyclone, can be devastating, eh? And here we are, just telling us, hey, who's in control here? Yeah, so here we are. So coming, I guess we can come back now to more hands-on and what you've achieved here in a business sense. You made some changes. Before I met you, you set up here, you built this lovely home. And you, from a truck driver, you suddenly had a farm.
Yeah.
And wow, I remember you telling me, I think I said it before, that suddenly you got rid of a problem because of malpractice. And suddenly said, well, I've got this farm, but actually I'm not a farmer. What do I do? And you already started down the road of the holistic farming, regenerative farming. And that was a great thought process for you. But there were some issues in there, and we met, and it was really, I've always said, it's the animal. Most projects and advisory patterns have got these great plans, but they've never factored in the difference between animals. They're efficient or not, and the difference is huge. The optimal animal grooms the pasture, because its diet is a mixture of high fibre and the lush grasses. The more off-type animal tends to try and double graze to get the fresh shoots, and they can't handle the high fibre, so they double and treble graze. So you have patchy and you have rank growth. And so that's not a pretty look as well, because they're cutting down their food source, you see? Down to a quarter probably, sometimes less. To 10%. All this rank grass. But the optimal animal can handle that. And so together we have defined the best animals you had here to start with. You had a potpourri of genetics, if that's the word I'll use. Other advisors had stocked your farm.
Yeah, they did.
With a potpourri.
Yeah, they did.
And this is what amazes me, that no matter what humans have done to the animals, in amongst it, you can find a few gems.
Yeah, that's right.
That also is a lesson about we should stop and think about the power of nature. All that humans have done, tried to change animals by script and by theory, and conspired to do that by theory, have created this mess now that only there's 83% animals that are dependent on assistance, only 17% that are marketable, that are functional on this farm with a minimum of your good shepherdness, good herdsmanship. That's a shocking outcome of 54 years of dictate to have damaged goods of 83% by degree.
Yeah.
And that's a high debt cost spiral to maintain them. They're dependent.
Yeah.
So it was great to rock up and observe you potpourri, and you noticed I was quiet and silent, and we talked. I got Ricky talking about his operation and his background, all the stuff we've talked about today, because it's a very powerful, it's the ingredient of who you are. I said, well, okay, let's have a crack. We'll sort these into groups. And we did find some good females in there that were even better than on some career farms. And so we formed that as a basis of you building a herd. You had a desire to create, and it's all about creation what we do, the more optimal animal. So then we got some very good genetics and in terms of the male side, and applied over those select females, and you're developing a very nice herd in a very quick time. And the potpourri were traded out, and we changed that business pattern as well through selecting them to their various sale groups and ages, and so we got a systematic program going that must have been helpful for you, but you expressed yourself on that.
Yeah, it was just building with what you had, and then having to use, some of those others, but being selective and the very best that was there, and just needed those for cash flow really. But the essence of what you're talking about is building that seeding herd, because that brings into account all of the issues that people highlight, the condition of their fur, their coat, and meat to bone ratio, their temperament, their height, length, all of those things factor into the animal and the herd. So no, thank you for, it's only been 2 years.
2 years, it seems like we have known each other for a lot longer than that.
Yeah, well, 2 years, and to turn it around in such a short time, like I said, some of my family have taken note, and Christ, where'd you get this from?
What's happening here?
Geez, where you get those those bloody things from? And I said, oh, man in charge.
Yeah, but also, Ricky, you are a very good feeder of animals, and through your spirituality and understanding connection with an animal, you understand their wants as well. And so you've developed a very good feeding system, and you feed them to their capabilities.
Yeah.
And you give them more than enough. And then it's the other part I've explained about some animals have got the capabilities.
Yeah,
the
right.
efficient animal eats less food.
Yeah.
This is another fallacy.
Yeah,
you don't need another paddock of grass to give an efficient animal, because by proof and by science at Invermay, so away from Falkirk, but I've known this for 40, 50 years, that those optimal animals eat less food because they can get the nutrients they want out of that quantity of food.
Yeah.
The off-type animals, all the time grazing, they'll never ever get enough nutrients because they're designed incorrectly. They've got a shorter, small intestine, their heart and lungs are smaller, they're under pressure all the time, and they think they need more nutrients, they're grazing all the time, got a big paunch. Fish and animal doesn't have a big paunch at all. You think if you're in Africa and food, you get enough food, but you don't get enough to gorge. Sometimes you might do. If you get an elephant down, you get a meal and a half. But the fact is, wild animals generally eat and drink enough to run their bodies because it's not a luxury out there. And to be greedy is also a flaw, a human flaw as well as an animal flaw. At the end of the day, you will find yourself on the edge of that cliff. You eat enough, you sustain your food source. And I've got a little story there, that one that has never left me, about human side of things. There's a race on this earth that practices this in its natural surrounds, right up in the Arctic Circle, Inuit. They live in an icy environment.
Yeah, that's right.
Their food source is just enough.
Yeah.
They hunt for their hides and their food. They also have family structure.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing. The parents, as they get a little bit older and the youngs have their next generation, there's a beautiful thing that goes on here, that the grandies will look after the young. They're all in the one igloo type thing. The young ones out hunting to sustain the family. Very simple stuff. But there's something else that happens. And when I worked this and understood this, it's very humbling. And so I'm going to tell you that at a stage in life, we're going to celebrate my stage in life, but as the grandparents get older, you see naturally a lot of things that happen to us, if we simplify things down, by instinct, things are triggered. And this is one that really resonated with me, that the grandparents are there tending their children and it's a hard winter, and so one stormy night, grandma or grandpa will stand up and not say a word and walk outside the igloo and keep walking and walking. It's a cold, desolate night. Until I realised what that represented. And when I did realise, it made sense, because what they did, they knew that to save the next 2 generations and to sustain the species, they were a stress on the food source. It's another mouth less to feed. And I've done my duty.
Yep.
Our grandies were up here and the self-sufficient. It's a beautiful, it's brings tears to your eye.
Yeah.
But it's a lesson of what we all humans are about.
Yeah.
If we haven't got that connection, and it's helped me to be a better grandparent as well, to pass on the wisdom, and we choose to go when we choose to go, but we must consider other people. It's not about us, it's about what's gone before, what we've left, and to me that's a driving factor, a huge driving factor. That story is it's got its sadness, but it's got a message for life, sustain life. So yeah, I had to bring that one up because it's such a powerful thing. It's been a big influence on me. So you can extrapolate back to animals as well. The hangers-on will pull down the herd. And nature has got predators out there to be the icy cold northern storm. You see how it all goes? In this modern era, where you're pushing buttons and are flashy and must have and want, you won't survive. You can't survive with those lack of principles. Some people call them principles, but I don't. They're lack of the core principles. So, yeah. So yeah, coming back to observe you on your farm, you've got all these factors, and within 2 years, we placed in your hands animals that are going to survive through their genetic power. And you're the herdsman, and you understand this 5 dimension, not the 3 that everyone talk about, the 2 that are so crucial. Because temperament and behaviour are vital ingredients to the functionality of this visual thing we see out there of a cattle beast or a sheep. Those 2 things are the drivers. Nervous tension presses itself on a food source. It's wasted. It's going into nervous tension, not functionality of the body or reproduction of a great set of genes to take over. So you understand that, and that's so crucial that we're on that plane. There's not many people on that level.
Yeah, well, you see it when they're calving, and you'll see the mothers around the mother when she's calving, and you just see them watching. So they're aware of those things. You'll have a calf amongst these herd, and they never get hurt. And these are animals 600-700 kgs. And that little calf being 100 and something doesn't get hurt.
Actually, yeah.
And so that's the observation you're talking about. So I know I can go in there in the middle of them and feed them, and know they're not going to hurt me because I trust them. They're right around me when I'm feeding out, and I can do that, and I know they're not going to hurt me because I've seen that how they are not able, how they are to, you know, because you just got to watch, and you see these huge animals and these tiny little calves, and they don't hurt it. That is nature.
But better than that, Ricky, those animals trust you and know that you're not going to hurt them.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Hey, it's
yeah.
reciprocal.
Well, the
Reciprocal.
difference. Yeah, the difference between the animals and why I like farming and why I guess a lot of farmers do farming is that it's reciprocated. It's not manipulated, or it's not twisted, or it doesn't come with an unwritten agenda. So it's simplified by the way they behave and act, and how they connect.
Yeah.
And so, but I just seen, you know, the way they behave in calving, and how those little calves can be amongst a huge herd and these huge animals,
Yes.
and not get hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, geez, if they can look after their little calf, and they know I'm the boss, surely they must be able to look after me. And they do. Yeah, because it's just a built respect that that it's not written, and you can't script it, and you can't find it anywhere. It's just something you learn and have to deal with. And it's some of the, you know, like you're saying, some of the hard things. The hardest thing I have to deal with is when an animal's sick and those things, and you have to weed them out. I find that very hard, very hard.
But I saw you nurture an animal that was near death,
Yeah,
and you nurtured him.
every
I
day.
don't think he could rise,
No.
and you nurtured him every day, and I
Yeah.
observed you with a connection with this animal. It was a steer,
Yeah.
a Frisian steer, and I can promise you it was an ugly situation. Most farmers would have terminated that animal's life. You nurtured that, and it was a huge thing. It survived to a huge animal. And that impressed me about your empathy and
Oh, but and he returned you know, I had to send him off, and I cried. And I had to say no. But that's the hardest part in farming.
Yeah.
Is when you make those connections and you take them, you don't want them all, you know.
No.
But the ones you do win, you take much gratitude to be a part. And but that particular steer would follow me and keep an eye on me, and so that caring was reciprocated, you know.
Yeah.
He couldn't talk, so the thing with animals
He talked about when I watched
yeah.
he was talking to you.
What people don't understand is the animals can't talk, but they will find a way
To communicate.
to communicate. And unless you're open-minded about, you know, your perception and values of how you see things, you'll miss it by a country mile. You'll miss it. You know, it's like watch. I was watching them. Oh yeah.
You've got to have form so you can function.
Yeah.
It's about functionality.
Yeah, well,
About efficiency.
Yeah, you had, and this was the ones that you selected that had form, and then you brought in the ones that didn't have form, and so it was so obvious because you could see it. It's like, oh yeah, right.
Chalk and cheese.
Yeah, chalk and cheese. And you're like, okay, now select. Oh yeah, easy. Tuk, tuk, tuk. And so those are the things that, well, for me matter. But certainly that's the hardest part, is when you have to care for them, and then you know that they're going to be terminated. But on the flip side, you've got these seeding stock. And that kind of resets the scale, the balance, because they're going to be here because of your genetic selection, because they're not gorging, because they're functioning as an optimum, because the way they eat is significantly different to the traders.
Yes.
Significantly different.
Yeah.
The way they behave is significantly different than the traders. Significantly. Chalk and cheese. You know, and you look at their condition, I mean, we've had a pretty dry summer.
Yes.
But they've lost bugger all.
And I can see that glossy.
They have lost
Got
bugger all
contusion.
because of that conversion in efficiency and temperament and selection, genetics, all of the things that you have taught us. And much respect, honour and gratefulness for that.
Thank you, Nikki. And the big point is, I made a comment earlier, it's not what we're taught, it's what we've learnt. And you're a very good example of being the sponge for knowledge. So just to sum it up now, just in just a couple of one-liners that has delivered you to this time and place with your animal. Just a couple of key points.
Oh, my biggest one was don't get in the road. Yeah. Just see nature and work with it. Don't kill it. And nature, I'm talking about the animal, the climate, the soil, yourself, how the herd operates, how you manage them, the whole thing. Don't get in the road.
Great.
Don't get in the road. Don't try and manipulate or fornicate what's already there. Because what you bring to the table is already there. What we're fixing was manipulated, fornicated and bastardized. Right?
Yes.
Have I got it right?
Yes.
What you're talking about is facilitating. The word facilitate comes from the Latin word facile, to make easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we're doing to be lazy. I'm saying it's hard work, but it's made easier when we work with nature, not kill the bloody thing with glyphosate, with their own selection based on making a more profitable animal. What you bring to the table is an energy efficient, the whole thing. And so that's for me. For me, my one line is don't get in the bloody road.
Okay, that's good. Now that's taking care of the animal from a human aspect, and we'll wrap it up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a nice one-liner. You captured all that.
Yeah.
We could have said that from the start, and
yeah. Yeah. Well. Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. So from a human aspect.
Yeah, I think the most undertaught, undervalued, unappreciated skill or learning process in life is actually listening. Because if you listen to what you say without putting your own interpretation into it, you will see nature.
Okay.
And so when you came, you brought something very different I hadn't seen in a long time. And the last person I saw that was a very old lady, and she wouldn't say much because what she was actually doing was she was trying to see if you were listening. Because what be the point of communicating if the person on the other side you're talking to isn't listening?
Yeah. And there's one point to go on top of that.
Yep.
That the person who is listening has to hear.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point
the
of
message.
Because there's a scripture that goes, "For faith come by hearing," and then it says, "by hearing."
Yes.
You see?
Because that field day the other day, I heard a lot of jargon going on,
but they
and
weren't
people
listening.
were listening.
But they weren't listening, and that's why I left, because one, I was angry the way they treated you, and the other one was, well, he wasn't listening anyway. So what the hell's the bloody point? I didn't see the bloody point.
Yeah.
Because I was just getting angry, and I've been to court. I've had the police come and knock on my door because I've knocked people out, mate. I've taken them out.
Yeah.
I kid you not. You know, so that's for me. It's you actually have to teach young people how to listen.
Yeah.
From a young age.
And interesting, what we probably took out of that exercise you're illustrating is, in actual fact, he took himself out.
Yeah. Well,
by his own hand, and that's fine because that was his choice.
Yeah, which is what I was saying. Because he put himself in the road, because he didn't put what matters at the core of what we're trying to establish, which is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Which is why those farmers who are generational, some of them 5, 6 generational farmers, see instantaneously when you go through, that's not good, and they're like, how did he do that? See?
Yes.
And then they want to listen.
Yeah.
See? So that's why I say, don't get in the road. Listen.
And I'll close on this, because here's a lifelong story, and we've heard it so often. You've got 2 eyes and 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in proportion.
Yeah.